One of the most popular Friends characters, aside from the main 6 characters, has always been Janice. However, what you may not have noticed is that she actually evolved a lot throughout the show. Not just in terms of character development, but also in terms of her place in the show. Janice first appeared in Season 1, Episode 5, the one with the East German laundry detergent, as Chandler's girlfriend who he wanted to break up with, but had trouble breaking up with. By the end of the story, Phoebe successfully breaks him up, so if she were to never appear again after this, I don't think anyone would have thought much of it. The show has plenty of characters who come in for one story and then are gone.
Well, I guess we're not going out anymore. Man!
However, that's not how it turned out, and I think she was always planned to be a reoccurring character. Main reason I think this is because her second appearance was pretty quick after her first. That appearance being only 5 episodes later with Season 1, Episode 10, the one with the monkey. In this episode, the characters make a pact to have no dates on New Year's Eve, which all of them, aside from Ross, break. And who is Chandler's date? None other than Janice, who he breaks up with again before the end of the episode. So this could have also been her last appearance, and it also would have made sense from a story standpoint. But it wasn't, as she appeared 4 episodes later in Season 1, Episode 14, the one with the candy hearts, where Joey took Chandler with on a double date because Joey promised to bring a date for his date's friend, who ends up being Janice. Joey ends up leaving in the middle of the date, leaving Chandler his credit card. Chandler and Janice end up spending a lot of money with this card and get drunk and wake up in bed together the next morning. Janice considers this a relationship, but Chandler doesn't want that, so breaks up with her yet again. However, she isn't upset this time, as she's confident that Chandler will come back to her because he keeps seeking her out. And she's definitely right about that. But before we get into that, I want to note that this is the first time that her ending up in the episode wasn't due to something Chandler did, and it was instead just a coincidence, which becomes an increasingly common reason for her appearances from here on out. Her next appearance was in Season 2, Episode 3, the one where Mr. Heckles dies. In this episode, Chandler notices his similarities to Mr. Heckles and begins to worry that he'll die alone. So in an effort to find someone, he calls Janice, who since her last appearance has gotten married and is now pregnant, in just 8 months or less. So of course this relationship was going to fail. And we find out 21 episodes later in the season finale, Season 2, Episode 24, the one with Barry and Mindy's wedding, that her husband's cheating on her. In this episode, Chandler's been talking to a girl online who he ends up falling in love with, just through messages. He's reluctant to meet up with her after finding out she's married, but ends up meeting up with her and finding out that he'd been talking to Janice. And that's how Season 2 ends. While the first instance of her being brought into an episode this season was Chandler's doing, the second time was another of the aforementioned coincidences. Then we move on to Season 3, which is the most Janice-heavy season of the show. Because in the season's first episode, the one with the Princess Leia fantasy, Chandler is dating her and tells Joey that this relationship could last. And it does go on for a while, as she appears in 6 of the season's first 8 episodes. However, they break up in Season 3, Episode 8, the one with the giant poking device, after she kissed her ex-husband 1 episode prior in Season 3, Episode 7, the one with the race car bed. And while she's mentioned a few times after this, she doesn't appear again for the rest of the season. But with 6 appearances, this is still the season she appears in the most. I feel like if they didn't end the relationship this early into the season, Chandler could have ended up with Janice. And of course later, Chandler and Monica get together and become a superior couple, but this season shows he genuinely cared for Janice. And for all we know, the writers could have originally wanted them to end up together, but changed their mind for some reason. This is also, oddly enough, the last season where she gets more than 1 appearance, unless you count both parts of a 2-parter as 2 episodes. Now let's move on to Season 4. When talking about Season 3, I was going to say that maybe the writers considered having Chandler and Janice end up together, but didn't due to Chandler and Monica. However, once I remembered her Season 4 appearance, I realized that that's probably not the case. It's commonly stated that Monica and Chandler sleeping together in London wasn't planned to lead to a relationship until they heard the strong audience reaction. So, at the time of Season 4, Episode 15, the one with all the rugby, Monica and Chandler wasn't planned. But this episode does seem to make it clear that Chandler and Janice are not going to be back together, and this is the last episode where they date. After another coincidence brings them together, they start dating again, because Janice is no longer with her ex-husband who she got back together with in Season 3. But this time, Chandler doesn't want to be with her, so he says his job is sending him to Yemen as a way to break up with her, without actually having to break up with her. So, this episode is kind of the first in a change of her role in the show, because in this episode, her and Chandler are never seen as a relationship that could possibly continue on, because it's clear from the beginning that Chandler wants to end it. So this is kind of the beginning of her shift from a possible romantic interest for one of the characters to a wacky side character that comes in once a season, and from this episode onward, her appearances will exclusively come about due to coincidence. Season 5, Episode 12, the one with Chandler's work laugh, has her involved in the episode due to Ross running into her in a bar and going out with her. However, this relationship ends quickly because she gets annoyed with him. While this is another instance of her dating a character, I feel like this is similar to her appearance last season, because you don't really think it's going to be a relationship that lasts longer than this one episode. Because unlike her and Chandler's relationship in Season 3, there are no serious moments with it. It's played strictly comedically the entire episode. But this is the last time her appearances will be about dating another character. So, I don't know if this next one counts. Her only appearance in the next season is in Season 6, Episode 17, the one with Unagi. And it isn't even a physical appearance. It's just her voice on an old mixtape Chandler gives to Monica, not knowing what's on it. And that's her only appearance this season. I feel like the writers might not have known what to do with her this season, because she can't date Chandler anymore, and they already had her date Ross, and her dating Joey would just be weird. But she's back next season in Season 7, Episode 7, the one with Ross's library book, where she finds out about Monica and Chandler's wedding and invites them on a double date, as well as invites herself to their wedding, and overall won't leave them alone. However, they act like Chandler still has feelings for her to get her to leave. First of all, I want to point out that in her appearance in Season 5, she says this:
I know what you all are thinking, but Chandler is in Yemen.
However, she never mentions the whole Yemen thing in this episode or ever again. Not that big of a deal, but it would have been interesting to hear if she ever found out he was lying about that. Also, this is the first time her appearance isn't about either her dating a character or a character wanting to date her, excluding the Season 6 one if it even counts. This is kind of the first part of her shift from a romantic partner to just a goofy acquaintance who constantly seems to pop up, even though the shift won't fully happen until next season. The main reason for this shift is probably because she is a very entertaining character and it would be weird for her to just stop appearing. But at this point, there isn't really anything they can do with her dating the characters anymore. Also in this episode, she has a relationship with the guy named Clark, but that also ends in this episode.
I just cannot believe that Clark stood me up.
He may still show up.
Oh, what are you, stupid?
But we now move on to Season 8, Episodes 23 and 24, one where Rachel has a baby, parts 1 and 2. And a lot has changed for her. She's married to a man named Sid who will consistently be her husband for the rest of the show. So it's nice to see that she did move on from Chandler, and why I said that her shift away from a romantic partner and to a goofy acquaintance didn't fully happen until this season was because at the end of the Season 7 episode she says this:
You call me when this goes in the pooper.
From this episode until the end of the show, she no longer shows any signs of being attracted to Chandler or any of the friends. So she has fully left her original purpose of being a romantic interest. Also, this is the only time she appears as an acquaintance and not a romantic partner in a storyline that isn't centered around Chandler and Monica. Monica and Chandler do interact with her in this episode, but she spends most of her time in this episode with Ross and Rachel. But from here on out, she only appears with Monica and Chandler. Her next appearance is in Season 9, Episode 21, the one with the fertility test, where Monica and Chandler go to a fertility clinic and Janice is there too. It's another appearance of her just being someone they run into. Sid doesn't even appear in this episode or in her last appearance, but he's still mentioned as being her husband in both. But the thing that I want to point out with this episode is the conversation she has with Chandler. Because while her conversations with him in the last episode and her first scene in this episode seem a bit hostile, with her making jokes and him getting annoyed,
That's funny. Does it hurt? Does the labor hurt?
the next scene in the episode has them just having a real conversation for a lot of it. There are still jokes, but it's a nice moment to see them have a serious conversation that doesn't have anything to do with their relationship. Janice's final appearance is in Season 10, Episode 15, the one where Estelle dies, where Monica and Chandler find out that Janice is planning to buy the house next to theirs. And when Janice finds this out, she wants to buy it, but Chandler says he still has feelings for her to get her to not buy the house. I love how Chandler's reaction to her appearance early in the episode is basically a response to how weird her constant coincidental appearances have been throughout the last few seasons.
Sure.
But this episode is her final appearance, so we basically see her confirming that her and Chandler are done.
I'm done.
She kisses him one last time, but then leaves, and that is the end to her story. Overall, she went through a lot in the show, because she went from dating Chandler on and off to getting married, getting divorced, to dating Chandler again, getting back with her ex, breaking up with him again, dating multiple different people, and then marrying and staying with Sid and having kids with him. So just like the show's main characters, she went through breakups, divorces, births, marriages. It seems like she went through just as much as all the other characters. And as I mentioned, she shifted from a joke romantic partner to a serious one, back to a joke one, and then to an acquaintance who just appears occasionally, and appearances went from being brought on by Chandler to just being coincidences. She went through enough changes to make someone say,
Oh my God.